Hello everyone, and today I'm going to be comparing works in my English class such as Anza Yezierska's The Lost Beautifulness and Karl Marx's Capital to one of my favorite movies of all time, Parasite. Directed by Bong Joon-ho, Parasite shows how greed and discrimination threaten the newly formed parasitic relationship between the wealthy Park family and the poor Kim family. Warning, this video contains spoilers for the movie, so please watch before proceeding with my analysis. The Kim family, father Ki-taek, mother Chung-suk, daughter Ki-jung, and son Ki-woo live in a small semi-basement apartment, have low-paying temporary jobs as pizza box folders, and struggle to make ends meet. Min-hyuk, one of Ki-woo's friends, gives Ki-woo a rock and asks if he can tutor the Park family's daughter in English. Drawn by the high pay, Ki-woo poses as a Yonsei University student and gets hired by the Parks. Eventually, he begins referencing his other family members, who all work behind the scenes using their skills, wit, and strategic planning to infiltrate the home and eventually replace the other servants. We begin to see the turning point during the middle of the movie when Moon Gwang, the former servant, visits the Park home during a severe rainstorm and runs down to the basement to tend to her husband, Gun-se, who has not eaten for days ever since she got fired by the Parks. Afterwards, we truly begin to see the discrimination, poverty, and wealth inequality between the rich and the poor come to light. Not only do the poor families exploit the rich family for their wealth and connections, but they also exploit one another despite struggling with similar class positions. Eventually, Gun-se stabs Ki-jung as an act of vengeance for killing Moon Gwang, and Ki-taek stabs Mr. Park out of rage but is forced to hide in the Park basement to avoid punishment for his crime. The movie ends with the same window as shown in the beginning, with Ki-woo promising to work hard to earn enough money so he can buy the house and reunite with his father. I enjoyed the movie for its focus on class conflict, social inequality, wealth disparity, and critique on capitalism as well as the American dream myth. Parasite does not discuss other factors that may influence a person's class, including immigration status and racial identity. However, although it does not focus on these intersectionalities, the movie is still effective in portraying class struggle and the horrific conditions under which society has normalized capitalism. And despite wanting to sound hopeful and optimistic about the future, Parasite drops one harsh truth at the end of the film: that hard work and talent does not necessarily equate to success in today's society. While it does not talk about America in particular, Parasite critiques the American dream myth, which claims that any minority immigrant, no matter the race, can overcome hardship and achieve success through education and upward mobility. In contrast to stories that focus on the positive aspects of overcoming hardship, such as conquering trauma or fleeing an oppressive government, the actual immigration experience consists of homelessness, political and economic disenfranchisement, and psychological abuse. This emphasizes how the American dream is a fantasy with a lot of underlying pain and harsh realities, including financial insecurity, language barriers, homelessness, and prejudice that many people refuse to acknowledge. In addition, while society views America as the land of opportunity, these discriminatory barriers prevent people from rising up the social ladder and achieving their dreams. While we know that Ki-woo and his family are neither immigrants nor refugees, we can see how much they struggle to find a stable job throughout the movie despite how smart, skilled, and talented they are. As Karl Marx says, the producers within which the social characteristics of their labors are manifested take on the form of a social relation between the products of labor. Here, Marx claims that the type of labor one does reveals that person's social class. He establishes a relationship between labor and social status, which ties into the servitude work, for example, cooking, cleaning, driving, and tutoring, that the Kim family does for the Parks. While the Parks leech off the Kims' hard but low-level work, they still operate above the Kims due to their ultimately higher-paying job positions in society. In addition, Marx emphasizes this parasitic relationship by describing how the capitalist consumes the commodity, the labor power he has just bought. That is to say, he causes the worker, the bearer of the labor power, to consume the means of production by his labor. Throughout the movie, we see how the labor that the Kims produce gets commodified and consumed by the Parks, even through the simplest actions. For instance, we see how Mrs. Park pays Ki-jung a large sum of money for her art therapy labor, and even watch her consume ramdon, a product of Chung-suk's cooking labor. Marx even mentions how objects of utility become commodities only because they are products of private individuals who work independently of each other. The upper-class capitalist profits from the work of the lower-class family who consumes the means of production by his labor. In other words, as the Kim family adopts their new work personas, for example, Ki-woo as Kevin from Yonsei University, Ki-jung as Jessica from Illinois, they too get consumed by their new roles, even if they are fabricated. Furthermore, the Kims also leech off the wealth of the Parks to obtain commodities such as food, shelter, and comfort. The movie exemplifies labor production and capitalism through the symbiotic relationship of the Parks and Kims, making it such a fascinating watch. And while the American dream would claim otherwise, the unfortunate reality is that no matter how practical or skilled you are, you may not become successful if you neither have the tools or networking abilities to overcome the capitalist system. In addition, as long as you have the wealth or connections through marriage or nepotism, you don't even have to be that smart, as shown by Mrs. Park's constant gullibility. When describing the horrifying working conditions in 17th century England, Marx states, "He can strike so many blows per day, breathe so many breaths. He meets the effort. The result is that producing for a limited time a fourth more work, he dies at 37 for 50. This quote reminded me of the scene where Ki-woo and his father lie desolately on the gym floor after the storm.
절대 실패하지 않는 계획이 만주라네. 무계획이야, 무계획. No plan. 왜냐? 계획을 하면 반드시 계획대로 안 되거든, 인생이.
Here, despite Ki-woo's clinging into the rock, which symbolizes his stability and the false hope that he may one day climb the social ladder, his father strikes him with the sad truth that no matter how tirelessly they plan and scheme, they will never, as Mr. Park says, cross the line or overcome the increasing wealth barrier between the poor and the rich. And while Ki-woo says that hope and perseverance keep clinging to him, his father claims, with no plan, nothing can go wrong at all, and it truly represents the hopelessness of the situation as the rich worry about their shallow problems while remaining ignorant to the plight, death, and suffering of the poor. Ki-woo's desire for earning enough money to achieve the American dream mirrors Hana Haye's desire for justice and democracy in America. What's interesting about these two characters is that they cling to the hope that their situations will improve over time as long as they work hard. Similar to the opening scene with the window in Parasite, The Lost Beautifulness also contains a window with the light shining through. However, even as he watches her paint the apartment kitchen, Hannah's husband tells her outright, "No care lays on your head. It only dreams itself in you how to make yourself an American and lay in every penny you got on fixing out the house like the rich." This reminded me of the scene where Ki-woo questions whether he truly belongs to live alongside the rich. It's quite sad and shows that despite their ambitious fantasies of belonging into an affluent society, their socioeconomic status and lack of privilege prevent them from doing so. Ki-woo's false identity as an educated and wealthy man and Hannah's beautifully painted kitchen are merely lies that cover up the truth, that they are poor and lonely people attempting to fit in with a society in which they do not belong. When Hannah reflects this at the end of the story, she laments, "Was it then only a dream? All these millions of people from all lands and from all times, wishing and hoping and praying that America is? Did I wake myself from my dreaming to see myself back in the black times of Russia under the Tsar?" Interestingly enough, the final scene in the story ends with the grayness of dawn filtering through the window, which reflects Hannah's desperate dream of obtaining wealth fading into the distance. The window's grayness contrasts the initial whiteness, or hope, of living her dreams as a new immigrant in America while waiting for her son to return home. This situation parallels Ki-woo's fantasy of obtaining enough money to purchase the Park's former home and reunite with his father. But as the half-basement window shows, his dream may never come true. In fact, according to Bong Joon-ho in an interview, it would take Ki-woo 564 years until he could afford the house, which is clearly unrealistic. Through its skillful portrayal of class struggle, wealth disparities, commodification of hard labor, and the parasitic relationship between the capitalist and the worker, Parasite deserves its critical acclaim despite honing in on only one aspect of capitalism, class. In fact, class alone can determine a person's social standing and interpersonal relationships in many complex ways. And as Parasite and The Lost Beautifulness claim, Maybe the true parasite that continues to cling unto us is not only the American dream, but hope. The hope that one day the rich and the poor will stand on equal footing in a democratic society, despite how unrealistic it sounds. Thank you for watching.